Thursday night Krug show. Sterling Bennett is in the house. We have a lot to talk about. Niners getting ready to go to Houston to take on the Texans, and they're playing great football. We'll talk about what decision they have looming at quarterback. We'll talk about the matchup. We'll talk about the trade deadline. We got a lot to get to. Let's go. Off and running Thursday night on the Krug Show. Hope everybody's having a great one. Welcome, October 23rd, 2025. Beautiful day in Northern California. I'm not sure where you are, but thanks for joining us on the Krug Show. It was unbelievable today, like summer, like a summer day. So if you're in one of those places that it's like really cold in October, hey, what can I say? I can't, probably the best part of being in California is the weather. Just look at it this way. You're not paying the gas tax that we are paying. So seriously, you want to fill up your tank once in California or twice in other parts of the country. We're at that point pretty much as far as gas prices, but I'm not going to complain. Welcome to the Krug Show. Sterling, good to see you, man. How was your vacation? You had a week off, some family time. You got away from all the grind of talking sports.
It was good. It was good. I definitely missed talking 49ers. Was out there in the podunk city of Ponca City, Oklahoma for a week, seeing some family I hadn't seen in nearly 15 years. So it was good to be out there. But I will say this about gas price. Ponca City, Oklahoma.
Ponca City. Is there a K in there?
No, it's a Ponca. Very Native American heavy people out there. Very proud Native Americans out there in Oklahoma. But the food was good. Gained about 35 pounds. It feels like coming back from the Midwest. Heavy cream and lard in everything, but feeling pretty good back now in California.
Yeah, I mean it's a heavy eating region for sure.
Oh yeah.
Well, welcome to the Krug Show, everybody. Brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. We're also brought to you each and every week by Sleeper. You see it over Sterling's head there. Sleeper. We'll do a Sleeper lineup in a bit and look ahead to the game. But we want to start with the 49ers, 5-2, and they're really playing very good ball. I mean, I thought last week's game was spectacular. Just a great win over the Falcons. They got their running game going, and right now, they're winning with their backup quarterback. Their starting quarterback is hurt with the toe injury. Brock Purdy did practice today. I was looking at the EPA rankings of Purdy and Jones. Purdy's number 8. Jones is number 18. So even though I think there's a lot of people that feel like Jones has played better than Purdy, Jones is 5-1. Purdy's 1-1, or 4-1, 4-1 for Jones, I should say.
Yeah.
That a lot of people feel like Jones has outplayed him, but actually Purdy is the higher rated if you just look at EPA. But, right now, the 49ers have a question because, looming, I should say, because you've got Mac Jones, who's playing really good football. And, this isn't, this is real life. This isn't junior life. This is real life. And he's winning real games. And he's playing really well, easily the best football of his career. And the 49ers are finding a way to win games. And now their run game is returned. And so the play action pass game, is probably just around the corner. And you've got Ayuk coming back. You've got Kittle back. They've got at some point probably going to introduce Jordan Watkins to this mix. Pearsall eventually you would think is going to come back from his knee injury, though that thing seems to linger. So they've got a lot of different options here. What do you think is going to happen at the quarterback? How long would you go with Mac Jones? The latest was that, Purdy worked out Sunday and there was a little bit of a setback. he looked pretty decent at practice today, but it's, once again, it's like the turf toe thing is you could aggravate it so easily, and it seems like he hasn't given it enough time to heal. When's the right how the Niners play their hand of cards here at quarterback very well could determine whether they win the Super Bowl, go to the Super Bowl, or miss the playoffs. So what do you think, Sterling? I mean, how should Shanahan and Lynch play this? When do you want to see Purdy come back? Do you want to see Purdy come back? How would you play your hand of cards at quarterback?
Well, I think first and foremost, I think they've already botched his return. He shouldn't have come back against Jacksonville. And I know that maybe they felt comfortable and that everything looked fine, and maybe things have gotten worse since then. And okay, you can justify the return, I guess, in that sense. But I think they really should have pumped the brakes on returning him against Jacksonville. I think that has been a big reason as to why he's been out ever since then and missed the last, 3 or 4 games. That said, I do think Brock should come back. I do think we will see Brock Purdy again. My hope would be they avoid him returning, let's say, week 9 against the Giants. I wouldn't want Brock Purdy playing at MetLife Stadium with turf toe on, if not one of the worst turf in the entire league. And same goes for Pearsall and Brandon Ayuk and all those guys. Keep them away from what has been a black hole of ACL and toe injuries in New York City, or I guess in New Jersey. But that said, I think Purdy probably has a pretty good chance to come back week 10 against the Rams. You're back home, a division game. You're on, your home field grass. You have 2 more weeks to recover and everything. And I think whether he can be healed by then or cleared by then is, to be seen. But I do think Brock will probably push to play in that game, as he should, being this team's franchise quarterback. But I do think that there's a big risk, because if you're San Francisco and you're winning games with Mac Jones, are you willing to gamble and maybe risk Purdy's longevity into the offseason, whether he has to have surgery or whatever could come of a further injury to his toe, to get maybe more out of the quarterback position, where right now you're winning football games, you're 4-1 with Mac Jones and everything. It's a big risk. I do think it's worth it if you can maximize this season. However, as the year goes on, there's probably going to have to be a conversation that if Brock Purdy isn't back by week 12, do you pack it up and say, hey, give it a year, we'll see you next season? That will probably be a conversation, but I do think Brock Purdy will return at some point this year.
It's a tough call, because it's like, it's almost like they're taking their shot right now. It's, I feel like they've got like one shot, maybe 2 here. And when I say a shot, I mean, they've got a chance to like go with Brock and try to get some momentum going with him. I think they've got an opportunity to do it maybe 1 time, maybe 2 times. Okay. So there's been this break here. So now, okay, let's say you go back to Purdy, and let's say he plays just okay or doesn't play well.
Yeah.
Then there's is that due to the injury? A lot of the thing about this injury that's so frustrating, I'm sure, is it sounds like nothing, and yet it's the kind of injury that can really sap Purdy of his entire game, because it changes the balance on the throw, which changes his accuracy and probably makes him a little less accurate. It's really painful probably to step in and really drive off that toe on the deep passes where you really need to get your whole body into it. I'm sure that's very, very painful. So I would imagine his deep ball, is probably not the same. And then obviously the escapability is a huge part of what makes Brock Purdy. And if you don't have that, what he looks like to me is a guy when he gets to the top of his drop, like he wants to build a house there right now. You know what I mean? He wants to lay down roots, at the top of the drop. He doesn't want to move. And he used to be a guy that was totally willing to move and could move really well. And I think, that this turf toe has sapped him a little bit of that escapability, which is one of his things that he really needs to protect himself and play at the top of his game. So I think, I know it's crazy to say, but I can't believe that. But it just seems like, I mean, we saw this guy in training camp. He looked phenomenal. He
Yeah.
was on time. He was throwing the deep ball with strength and with accuracy and hitting guys in stride and looking just like absolutely the best version you've ever seen of Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
And it's just like it doesn't quite seem like that right now.
When is the last, because like at some point you have to make a decision for your team of like, we're sticking with Mac or we're giving Purdy a second chance to come back and be healthy. I don't think you can make that choice, say week 16, week 15. I think it'll happen at the latest. Purdy will probably come back week 12 against the Panthers at home. That makes the most sense to me as like a late target return date. But do you see a world where maybe Purdy's return, if it ever happens, doesn't come until later in the season, week 15?
I mean, I think that would be preferable. I mean, I
Okay.
think really what would be preferable to me is that he makes one big run, and after, I mean, so I had a doctor on this week and I asked him about turf toe and he said, you really got to give it the full rest. And I said, well, what is it? He's like, 2 to 6 weeks for most people, 2 to 8 weeks in an extreme situation. So unless he's really an outlier, we're talking about 2 to 8 weeks off of it, but he's not really off of it. He's practicing.
Yeah.
And even though he's practicing, he's not doing a ton. He's still doing football and bouncing around on a field. So it's like it's not really
So
resting like the rest. Like if I had turf toe, I wouldn't also go, run, up and down a field and throw and you know what I mean?
right. Right.
You just wouldn't
So
do that.
when you see Purdy out there, is there part of you, on the inside saying like, why is he out here at all if he's not going to play? Like we know he's not playing this
Yes.
Sunday against Houston. Like we know that. The odds are he may not play, probably shouldn't play week 9 against the Giants. So if he's not going to play those 2 weeks, and rightfully so, then he shouldn't practice at all in between. Like I feel like whenever
Well,
I
he's
see
like
him practicing,
trying to play. He's like
right?
trying to gear up and play. But I think that in and of itself is not probably what's best for the toe. I mean, they have doctors and but I mean, are they listening to them? I don't know. I don't know what their doctors are saying, but it seems to me that his best chance of being healthy is to stay off the toe for like an extended period of time. And
Did the
why not
doctor
give him?
mention like does flying affect his toe? Like, will the inflammation of the toe matter? Like, does any of that come into play here at all?
We talked about a lot of different elements of the thing, but I didn't ask him about elevation and flying and what that would
Okay.
do to it. That was probably a worthwhile question though. Yeah, I mean, that's a good one. I don't know.
Well,
He
because
did seem to think though that if you heard it and then you didn't rest and then you heard it again and then you didn't rest, you know what I mean? Or you didn't properly rest, that it could be a bad, an injury that lingers longer and could be more, I don't want to say career threatening because that sounds too over dramatic.
yeah,
I really don't mean to say career threatening, but
it's
just
more
that
severe.
it's more severe if you kind of keep hurting it over and over again without fully healing it, which is
Well,
kind
so
of what they're trying to do. They're trying to like make him heal fast. You know what I mean? It's like heal fast
right.
and get back.
So like looking at their schedule, it's the Texans this week and the Giants next Sunday. Those 2 days feel like they're out of the question for him. Week 10 against the Rams, you're at home, you're on your own grass. Maybe he doesn't fly to New York, who knows? Then they're in Arizona. Maybe that's an opportunity for him to come back. But then it's Panthers on the road in Cleveland and back home against the Titans. Maybe week 16 against Tennessee. Then you play the Colts on the road and you're at home again against the Bears to end the year. Like, I think if you want Purdy to rest that long, I think maybe the Titans game might be the first time you see him, because that'll be 10 weeks of rest. Hopefully he's fully healthy by then. But even if Purdy comes back, I feel like whenever there's a snap to him, a passing attempt, a rushing attempt, it's always going to be holding your breath as to, is he going to get hurt again, at least for the remainder of the season, whether it's, again, a game against the Panthers or a playoff game. It's always going to be, oh my goodness, is Brock Purdy healthy going in week by week now?
Yeah, I mean, unless Brock Purdy can teach himself to kind of throw around the pane and play quarterback around the pane and move around the pane, you know what I mean, and just compartmentalize the whole thing. I doubt that's possible. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, and then the question is when's the right time to bring him back? Since you did bring him back against Jacksonville, and then, and the thing is, it sounds like, he tried to have this workout on the field before the Falcons game. And then that was going to be like the momentum that he carried into maybe starting in Houston. And instead there was soreness, there was lingering soreness or additional soreness. So I don't know. This one's really, I'm sure Brock, I feel so bad for Brock because, your body is your body, right? It's like, it's nobody's fault that their body fails them. And he's aware of the whole situation in that he knows he signed the big money deal. He knows everybody's looking at him to lead the team and to justify the massive amount of money and this and that. And so he badly wants to get out there and lead this team, but it's the kind of injury that if you make it worse, you're looking at a Joe Burrow type situation and you're out for the year. So it's very frustrating. Steve Young had some interesting comments just saying that, I'm sure, it's just a really tough situation between him and Mac right now because you've got, Mac's obviously doing his thing, but I mean, for Brock, it's just really a tough situation because you're out there trying to show that you can lead, but you can't get out there.
Do you think there is a point in time during the season? We talked about Purdy and his health and what would help him get back and how long he should sit and what date he could return. But is there a point in time, kind of a breaking point, a fence you aren't willing to jump over and say, hey, once we reach week 15 or week 12 and Purdy isn't back, Mac, you're the guy? Do you think the team, whether it's the roster itself, the guys in the locker room, or even the coaching staff kind of get together and say, hey, I know we want Purdy to come back, but we're playing good with Mac. Let's say they, I don't know, whatever the record be at the time, above 500 in the playoff hunt. Do you think at some point in time they'd have an honest conversation and say, look, we want Purdy back, but in reality, Mac probably gives us, at least for this season, knowing Purdy's injury, the best chance to win and stick with him for the rest of the year?
I don't think that happens, Sterling, if Brock makes a comeback and there's a further setback.
Okay.
Then yet he's going to try to come back again, but it's a matter of how much rest. Like if he comes back and there's a setback and then he's going to be out for an extended period again, I think at that juncture they'll say, hey, we're all in with Mac now for the rest of the year. And if Brock can come back, great, but we can't bank on it, whatever they say. But that would be, I think, when they would make that call. Otherwise, if it just goes like this, where Brock is still sitting out like right now and doesn't come back, then I think they're just going to ride it out and leave it as is and just keep going with Mac. And then once they get into a playoff situation, activate Purdy and make sure that he's the number 2 quarterback in the playoffs. As far as I think that would be the plan. That's my guess.
Is there a sense that the Niners, while not wanting this, let's say, I don't know, in a couple weeks, Mac throws 3 interceptions, looks really bad and kind of falters. Do you think at that point maybe the tension ramps up for Purdy's return and like, okay, Purdy get back in there really fast. He's fine now. He's healed. Or even if he is 85%, like now Brock gives us the best chance to win after maybe a Mac stinker if it ever happens.
Well, I don't think that Lynch and Shanahan are pushing Purdy to do anything he's not comfortable with.
Okay.
I think they realize at their core that they can probably win with Mac or with Brock. I mean, I don't know if they feel that way, but I mean, I think I feel that way. I feel like they can, that I don't know how good Jones is, but, you know, um, I think they could win with him. You know, he's just accurate enough. He's just cool enough. He processes well enough. If they had, I mean, he's won some games where they've had nothing, where their defense has failed, where the special teams has faltered, where the run game's
Right.
been non-existent, where he's dropped back to pass 40 times, where they've maintained no offensive balance and couldn't run, and he still found a way. If they can get their run game going like they did last week, he might have, and then they can get some of their weapons back. He may have some, going on a little run where it's not such hard football every week.
Is there maybe a group of games on the schedule where, let's say San Francisco loses on Sunday against Houston, but then beats the Giants next Sunday, and Mac's still playing quarterback and they lose to the Rams and they lose to the Cardinals? Like, are there certain opponents on the schedule where you say if Mac and the Niners lose to them, that maybe you're more willing to risk Purdy further injuring himself to help maximize your season? Or does that not matter as long as the team's
They're
playing
not
good and
going
you're in the football game?
to, I don't think they're going to do that. They're not going to
Okay.
put Brock in harm's way just to, justify the situation or
Right.
they're just not.
Okay.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Especially not with all the injuries they've had, in other parts of their football team. But I mean, it is going to be interesting because Jones is playing pretty well right now. Purdy, wants to get back in there. And yet, it sounds from the talking to the doctors that he really needs to rest. And, if he comes back again and there's a further setback, then the season's in doubt. And also you got to kind of wonder about, the long-term ramifications of the recurring injury at that toe. Does there
Right.
have to be, does it now have to be surgically repaired? And what is there going to be long-term concerns? You don't want to get into that situation. I think that's probably number one. You want to try to avoid that situation at all costs. Of course, this thing, now locally, I think everything's been really cool. Like the vibe, I'm in the locker room every day. The vibe in there is really good. The quarterback room in the culture in the quarterback room, I think is the best the Niners have had. And I say that from the standpoint, I'm not in the room, but just from talking to all of the quarterbacks, and I've talked to all of them, about just the dynamics and watching them practice and the way they are loose and have a good time with each other. I think it's a really good room as far as, Adrian, they're all about the same age. Rourke, Adrian Martinez, Purdy, Mac Jones, they're all about the same age. So it's four young guys who all, are good quarterback prospects in their own right, at different stages, obviously. And Brock's really humble and was willing to share. Jones is very funny and light and sometimes irreverent and that kind of thing. But they have a good vibe, and you could see they share information, they help one another. It's a real positive situation. So that's reality. But from the outside world, they're always gonna turn this into, Mac versus Brock and that whole thing. And Bill Barnwell, who usually steers clear of any kind of drama, he's kind of more of a football guy at its core. At least the way he writes.
Yeah.
But he's talking this week, Sterling, about Purdy's 5-year, $265 million contract. And he says it is among the 49ers' biggest offseason disappointments and suggested the deal may have been premature. He wrote, well, the conversation is going to be out there, right? Jones hasn't been as good as Purdy, but in 5 starts filling in, Jones has gone 4-1, posting a 55.2 QBR. Purdy is better, posting a 68.8 QBR over 2022 through 2024. But is the difference between the two worth more than $48 million per season? And of course, that's such the, ridiculous question, but that's his
Right.
question. Then he goes on to say the reality. It says the 49ers currently sit atop the NFC West, 5-2 record, despite Purdy appearing in only 2 games. The reality has fueled debate over the value of his franchise record-setting extension and whether the Niners acted too soon. He says, with Purdy on track to miss his 6th game of the year due to the toe, Barnwell speculated on whether Kyle Shanahan and the Niner front office would make the same decision if given a do-over. And he wrote, maybe, but the $48 million would pay the salaries of a bunch of starters for a team that's had so many other talented players get hurt this season. So he's basically saying that, the Niners should have maintained financial flexibility and shouldn't have committed big money to Purdy. They should have waited. It's I would say it's 2020 hindsight, but there were people that had that suggestion ahead of time. If not Barnwell, somebody did. What do you think, Sterling? Is if Shanahan right now, you said, Kyle, you can have a do-over on the Brock Purdy 5-year, $265 million deal. Does he say, no, I'm sticking with my guy and my contract? Or does he say, I'll take the do-over?
I think he's saying no. I think Shanahan pretty much told everybody what he felt about Purdy before he signed the contract, and that was, I want Purdy to be my quarterback as long as I'm here, which, who knows how long that will be. Matt Maiocco thinks it'll be for a lifetime, and certainly feels that way. Shanahan, I think, has coached his butt off this year, and I think the reason why Mac Jones looks so good outside of his own doing is because primarily of how great Shanahan has been with with all of the depleted weapons they have on this roster. I don't think we are in the business, at least I'm not, 6 weeks, 8 weeks into his contract of questioning if he was worth it. I think we saw what Brock was worth prior to being paid, and I think he's still worth that. And yes, is there disappointment around the contract? Yeah, because Purdy hasn't played much, and he hasn't looked great in the 2 games he has played. So in that sense, sure, if you want to label Purdy's 2 games this year disappointing, fine. But I think, when it's all said and done, when the 5 years are said and done, I think if Purdy can remain healthy, which needs to happen, we're all going to sit back and say, wow, was he Mahomes or was he Josh Allen? No, but he was well worth the money. I'd also push back on Barnwell, who I think is a great writer for ESPN, but should we all sit back and question if Joe Burrow is worth the money? He's getting paid more than Brock Purdy is. He's missed more time than Purdy ever has. And I get it, Burrow has a higher upside, but he's missed a lot more time than Brock Purdy has over the last couple of years. He's out now with the worst injury, albeit a variant of the same injury Purdy currently has. So, there are worse contracts in football, that being Tua Tagovailoa and Deshaun Watson for a variety of reasons. But I do think that we shouldn't be making blanket statements like this on Brock Purdy's contract, knowing it's only 8 weeks into the new deal that we've seen thus far.
What annoys me is this grudging acceptance that people have for Purdy. Like, it's like, all right, I guess he's okay. And then as soon as, it's like, as soon as somebody else plays well for Shanahan, it's like, see, anybody could do it. But we know that really anybody can't do it. Also, Brock Purdy was very, very close to winning a Super Bowl. He played really well against Patrick Mahomes in that Super Bowl. And, I don't know about you, but I'm around a lot of Niner fans. I haven't heard anybody blame Brock Purdy for why the 49ers lost that Super Bowl. So, right. I think he is a good young quarterback who, when healthy, has really good escapability and movement skills that are kind of rare. And he processes what he sees, and, the mobility, he had to take off and run. And that element, helped them beat the Lions in the NFC Championship game, helped them beat Green Bay in the playoffs that year. So, I mean, he's kind of a proven guy in my estimation. And I think he's absolutely their number one guy. It is kind of annoying. You're right. It's like, as soon as it's like, well, right now, He can't play. He's hurt. His backup's playing well. It's real easy to be like, do you need Purdy? Not really. You know what I mean? To kind of lead everybody. It seemed the timing is just really bad for this kind of a question. I'm sure there's lots of people among the Niner fans that would be like, you know what? I'm all about the present, and in the present, Mac Jones looks good and is winning games, so I'm all behind Mac Jones. I mean, fans are fickle. I mean, that's the way it is. It's just people turned on. I'm not saying the fans are turning on Brock Purdy, but it's not really turning on anybody. You're just rooting for your team, and you want to see your team do well. Did the Niner fans turn on Jimmy Garoppolo when they appreciated Purdy in 22 coming off the bench? No, they just were rooting for Brock Purdy, and I would say the same thing. Nobody's really turning on Brock Purdy by rooting for Mac Jones. You just want to see the team win games and be successful, and ultimately it's about getting that 6th Lombardi trophy in the trophy case. And whoever really gets the win in that Super Bowl is probably going to be the guy who stays long term.
Well, and the one thing I've sensed from the fan base, which isn't inherently a bad thing, because you see your team winning and wins matter. You want your team to win. And when they do win, you usually want to stick with what's working to win those football games. And Mac Jones is playing really well, and they're 5-2, and they're atop the NFC West, and they are the current 2nd seed in the NFC. And so you see that and you go, oh, this is great. They're winning football games. But if we're being honest with ourselves, this team isn't scoring more than 20 points a game. Now, the receivers are out. Kittle's missed time. The running game hasn't been perfect, and I don't think it'll get back to being good against the Texans, who are a top 5 run defense in football. However, I do think that we have to realize that, like Jimmy Garoppolo, and even like Mac Jones, who has a much better arm than Jimmy Garoppolo did, there is levels to these things, right? Like, you can have a good quarterback. Mac Jones is a good quarterback. He's looked really good. However, I think we can all agree, and I'm sure Kyle would, and I'm sure John would too, I'm sure the team would, that we saw what Purdy can do. He clearly elevates us. Now, to what degree? I don't know, but it's much higher than Mac Jones has done even this year in his 4 wins. And I think that's kind of the sticking point of like, yeah, you've won games with Mac Jones. It'll take you to a certain point. But I do think there is a hard ceiling to what the offense can be with Mac Jones. And that ceiling likely doesn't have Super Bowl winner on it. Now, maybe it does, and I'm wrong, but I think Purdy will at least get you closer to that glass ceiling. And again, he walked off the field with the lead in the Super Bowl. And had it not been for a Spencer Burford blown block, they're probably walking off winning it. So you can do the he said, she said, whatever, but I do think that Purdy does elevate the offense, at least better than Mac Jones can. Now, again, it's not going to be Josh Allen levels of elevation or Lamar Jackson, but I do think there is a level above they can reach with Brock Purdy at quarterback compared to Mac Jones.
Yeah, I mean, he's just got better movement ability. But I'll say this about both of them, and I kind of feel this way about Baker Mayfield, and it's like the Patrick Mahomes and the Josh Allens. It's like they're in their own category. I mean, they're just such a unbelievable athletes and huge arms, and some people would put Lamar in there. I'm not sure I would, just because of the playoff struggles. But the other quarterbacks who aren't quite at that level, that are really like intriguing, have this kind of icy feel to them, and that's what Baker has, and that's kind of what Brock has to some degree. And I gotta say, from watching Mac Jones, there's a little iciness to him too. I mean, these guys, they can process what they see. They can win a lot of different ways. I'll say this about Mac Jones. If you got him some really dynamic weapons and a run game, and he had play action, he can process, he can throw, and he's pretty accurate. Yeah. So the thing about it, though, when you have these immobile quarterbacks, whether it be Jared Goff or a guy like Mac Jones, you can take individual downs away from them by the way you blitz them and that kind of thing. So that, because you can just you can just blow up plays because they're really pocket passers, and you can overload sides and, send too many. You can force the ball out of their hands faster than they want to get rid of it. Where with mobile quarterbacks, if you can try that, but if they somehow get outside the contain, I mean, you've probably got a house call. You probably have a big play or a touchdown. So it's riskier. So it's harder to defend the Kylers and the Purdys and the quarterbacks that can actually move a little bit. All right, let's do our sleeper lineup. 49er football this season on the Krug Show is presented by Sleeper, the fastest growing fantasy platform in the world. It's a one-stop shop. You get blazing fast news, real-time stats, group chats, season-long leagues, and of course, sleeper picks for daily fantasy. So you choose 2 to 8 players pregame or live, and you just pick more or less on their stat projections. And if you're new to it, I use the promo code Larry, Larry, and you'll get 100% deposit match up to $100 on your first deposit. The link is right there in the description. Terms and conditions to apply. Thanks to Sleeper for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. All right, let's take a look at some lineups here. We'll see what we got. We got Niners Texans coming up Sunday. Sterling, I'll give you the first pick. Who do you want to? Whose stats you like here? You got a vibe on any of these guys?
I think it's going to be a heavy Christian McCaffrey game, as it always is. The Texans linebackers are average-ish in coverage, but they're a darn good defense. I think is going to stop CMC on the ground. I don't really care how good San Francisco was against the undersized Falcons defensive line. The Texans are a different animal. And I think that it's going to be a heavy receiving day for Christian McCaffrey again. So I'd probably hit the over 42.5 receiving yards. That seems like a pretty much a lock to happen on Sunday.
Yeah, I like that too. Let's go more than 42.5 receiving yards for CMC. All right, I'm going to go with, give me Jalen Knoll. Do we have a Jalen Knoll in the house? Yeah, there we go. There's Jalen Knoll. I think this is the guy that's coming on. If you watch them, they're not going to have Nico Collins. Higgins got off to the good start, but this guy's coming on now. And I think he blows way past that. I think he's got a 65-yard day, something like that. So I'm going to say more than 31.5 for Jalen Knoll. Who else do you like? The Niners, it's hard to know. I don't think Pearsall is going to play. I wouldn't mess around there. So that's the question. Who's in and who's out?
That's tough because the Texans defense is so good. It's like I expect this game to be really close and probably a one-score game again. You know what? I think I might take the under for CJ Stroud passing yards. It may sound crazy, but I do think that the Texans offense, quite frankly, sucks. And Cauley, their offensive play caller, he doesn't know what he's doing half the time. And just
Nick Haley or something like that, I believe.
Yeah, and I think that San Francisco, if they're smart, would blitz the heck out of Stroud and just kind of get him off his rocker. Their offensive line's terrible. I just don't really trust anything the Texans have to offer offensively and sit back and say, yep, that's guaranteed, or yep, I feel good about that. Maybe you have a Knoll on Upton Stout touchdown. Maybe that's the case, but I think this game's going to be low scoring.
So it would be 199 passing yards. I like that too. Let's go under there. Let's go less on that one. CJ Stroud. There was one more I saw there that I kind of liked. Let's see. No. Let me give me Eddie Pinheiro. With this tough defense, 1.5 field goals. I'm going to go more than 1.5 field goals. I think Eddie's a money for probably 2, maybe 3. The Niners move the ball. They get these chunk yardage plays, and they move the ball, and they get into field goal range, and then it doesn't quite happen, or so there's negative plays. There's this Texans defense is really, really athletic. So I'm going to say they stall out a couple times, but they get a couple field goals, especially in the dome. Eddie kicking from 50 plus, you know what I mean? He's looking good right now. So I would say 2 field goals for Eddie. Looks pretty good. All right. That's 3, right? We got 3 or we got 4? We got 4.
It's 4. Yeah.
All right, so let's see. Let's go there. Let's go 4. We got 42.5 receiving yards for McCaffrey, so he's got to have at least 43 receiving yards. 2 field goals for Eddie Pinheiro. CJ Stroud less than 190, less than 109 than 200 yards.
Let me ask you this though, because
Jalen Noel more than 31.5.
It's National Tight Ends Day this Sunday.
You want to throw it? You want to throw Kittle in there?
Are we doing Kittle or are we doing Schultz? No Nico Collins, no Christian Kirk. He's kind of become their de facto number 1 target offensively. Bethune in coverage, although isn't terrible, not great, not Fred Warner. And they want to target the middle of the field a lot. Do we want to buy the Schultz or do we want to buy the Kittle on Sunday?
Kittle, I don't know about, because I just feel like it's possible that he's not 100% physically, and and they're using him as a run blocker, but not really. I don't know if what he's going to do as a receiver. Schultz, I feel better about as far as targets. Can we take a look at Schultz, or is it too late? Let's see. No, I think this
you have free cancellation in the next 4 minutes. Redo the whole thing.
I can cancel in the next 3 minutes. Do we have to redo the whole thing then?
I think so.
All right. We're redoing it. We're redoing it. Okay, there we go. All right. And now let's go to Schultz.
And this is how Chauncey Billups got caught gambling.
Do we go? You're saying 42 receiving? Which one do you like? The anytime touchdown or 42 receiving yards?
I'd probably take the receiving yards. That feels a much more safer bet.
Yeah, let's go. We'll go 42. We'll go more than 41.5 receiving yards. All right. I like it. Let's see what it looks like. If we go 5 for 5, $5 to win 62.15. I'll take that. Pretty that. Good. Thank you, Sleeper. The one that makes me most nervous in that probably there's a chance. I mean, Stroud, they put up 40 against the Ravens. So, I mean, that will be my one.
Lamar Jackson, it was Cooper Rush. Ravens are terrible this year defensively.
Yeah, but I mean, that was 40 is a lot. So that's a lot.
Yeah.
That would be my one concern. But, there we go. Winner. Big thanks to Sleeper. Remember, use code Larry for 100% deposit match up to $100. Links right in the description. Terms apply. Help support the show and gets you rolling on the #1 sports app, and it's a ton of fun. Sleeper. Thank you, Sleeper, for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. All right, let's get to a couple more topics before we get out of here, because we got a few things we want to talk about. We haven't talked about the matchup. Let's get on the matchup. Let's start with the Niner O and the Texan D. This is a really good defense, and they've got Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson off the edges. And they've got Stingley and Lassiter on the corners with Petrie in the nickel spot. And that might be 3 of the best corners going right there.
Yeah.
And you got Aziz in the middle of the field. He's super fast, violent. This is a team you don't want to hold the ball against for sure. How do you see the Niner offense in this game against the Texans?
Well, there certainly is that fear, right, of, Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson. I think they rank 1st and 4th in the NFL in pass rush win rate. So a big test for Trent Williams and Colton McKivitz this Sunday. And you can even go into the stunts they're going to draw up on DeMeco Ryans' defense. And it's going to be a tough day for San Francisco's offensive line. That said, I do think that we're going to see a schematic game plan kind of similar to what they ran against the Rams. Just drop back, quick tosses underneath. If they're going to give you 3 or 4, 5 free yards, whatever, you're going to take it. And I think that's why Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle may be in for at least heavy targeted days. I think the last thing you want to do is have Mac Jones be sitting back there for 3 or 4 seconds, because if he is, it's lights out. He's going to get hit a handful of times. So I think it'll be quick. Just not dink and dunk your way to a win, but I do think that there is a way where you're seeing Mac Jones drop back 30 plus times, and the average depth of target is like 6. And that's how they kind of figure their way out. But you really can't get vertical against the Texans. And when they hit you, they're going to hit you really hard. So I think it's going to be a low scoring game, high energy. I think you're going to have maybe one of the most respectful yet I want to rub it in your nose kind of game you've seen in a long time with Ryans and Saleh and Shanahan. So I think it's going to be a dogfight, which I don't hate that. They've won almost all their games via one score this year. And the Texans aren't too far away, but that offense just is so bad. I just can't buy anything they're selling, which really isn't much in the first place. So I think it'll be another one score game, but I think San Francisco may pull it off.
Yeah. It's one of those games where, 3-4 weeks ago, I thought, oh man, I don't know.
Yeah.
But now I'm looking at that offense for the Texans and I'm thinking to myself, keep them quiet because they're terrible. Their offensive line is just bad. It's a really bad offensive line. And then Chubb is done. And the other back, Woody Marks is just a guy as far as I'm concerned. I don't think he's special.
Schultz is one of the best receiving threats in college, and they never throw him the football.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look like
makes no sense.
They've got some good receivers, but they've had some injuries there. But the line, now, so what it amounts to is you got Woody Marks as your number one back. He's a rookie. Your top receivers with Nico Collins out are Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. Noel's probably going to get the ball the most. They're both rookies. And then you've got a young quarterback. You've got change on your offensive line. So they're really bad. I mean, this could be 49ers have, if they don't turn it over and the 49ers don't let the Texans score on defense, they're going to have a great chance to win because the Texans offense doesn't look like much. But I agree. I think this is going to be a low scoring game because the Texans only give up 14 points a game. And I think the plan for the Niners has got to be more run the ball, maybe a little bit more Brian Robinson this week, but run the ball, play action pass. If you look at Houston, the one thing that jumps out when I watched the couple games that I saw, I watched them like on the condensed because you can watch a game in like 20 minutes. Right. They really come up hard on the play action. So they really bite. They want to hit you and hurt you up front. And so any kind of good play action fake, but that means you got to get the run game going because they're not going to honor it if you don't have the run game going. But if the Niners can get the run game going a little bit, and then Mac Jones is really decisive and really crisp in his play action fakes, I think there's going to be room to roam. But, here's the thing. If the Niners, these are also two of the best corners, and I wouldn't be surprised if Stingley and Lassiter kind of threw the blanket on these Niner receivers and made it very hard to move the football in the air. So, you don't want to have to pass. First of all, you don't want to have to come from behind against this team because they've got great corners and big time edge rushers and a lot of speed. And so you don't want to, this is not the team to dig yourself a 14-0 hole or 17-0 hole. You won't come back from it. They're a little bit of a bully team in that regard. They're kind of like when they're feeling good, but offensively they're so bad that unless the Niners give them points on defense, I don't think they can score with the Niners. And the Niners offense doesn't look that great, but even so, the Texans offense right now is just, it's bad. I mean, there's no rhythm. There's no vibe. They're not running it well. They're not blocking it well. The receivers are dropping passes. Everything looks very disjointed. When you have a great passing game, it's like your quarterback looks like he's, throwing accurately, and he's throwing it, to receivers who have a huge catch radius, and everything looks so easy. They're the opposite of that.
Yeah, the biggest difference between these two teams is they have a great defense. Both teams' defenses are playing really good. The Texans may be the best defense in football through 7-ish games so far. But I do think that San Francisco is confident and knows who they are offensively, where the Texans are still trying to figure out who they are. Their offensive play caller and Stroud aren't on the same page yet. It doesn't feel like they really trust each other fully just yet. But I think having that confidence in yourself, knowing what the game plan is going to be, knowing you can actually execute the game plan, I think favors San Francisco in a big way. I also think that the Niners offensively in this game, I don't know how much the Texans are going to give them. I do wonder if they're going to be able to run power, though, and run the gap runs they used against the Falcons. Now, I do think that the Niners played an undersized, bad run defending Falcons team, which certainly helped their case to run gap runs and run power runs. But I do think that they're going to have a harder time. I don't know if they can actually do that this Sunday. So we shall see. I know that the Texans pride themselves on having not just good run defending defensive linemen, but having really good run defending linebackers and secondary pieces. So it's not as if you're going to get through the defensive line and all of a sudden you're off to the races. It's going to be a fighting for every kind of blade of grass outing for San Francisco's offense. On defense, though, for San Francisco, you're right. This Texans offense is terrible. 23rd in total yards. Outside of that Ravens game, they're averaging 17 points per game. This one on Sunday between San Francisco and the Texans might be a race to 20, and the odds would probably be favoring San Francisco in that case. They're also 31st on third down conversions offensively this season, and their offensive line, like I said, is terrible. I do wonder, though, no Fred Warner, no Nick Bosa, no Bryce Huff. How does San Francisco generate pressure? Yes, Samuel Kawanu, who he's fine, but he's not a starting caliber player, in my opinion. Yeah, bless you. You have, bless you again. You have Micah Williams, who I like a lot. I think he can be a great player, but I do think that he's an interior rusher, not an outside guy you can have out there every single down on the outside. And so I do wonder if Saleh has watched the tape, and I'm sure he has. Obviously, that's what his job is. Bless you again. That he realizes that CJ Stroud is not good under pressure, as most quarterbacks aren't. But right now, Stroud is the 5th lowest graded quarterback against pressure per PFF. He's the 9th lowest graded passer under pressure. He is tied for the most turnover-worthy plays when pressured and has the 6th highest turnover-worthy play percentage when pressured. So you have to find a way to get pressure on Stroud. And I think the way to do that is via the blitz. Minus that incredible, clearly an outlier Ravens game, Stroud is completing roughly 65% of his passes against the blitz for roughly 64 yards per game, has been sacked 7 times, and has thrown 2 picks. So you saw it against the Falcons that he was bringing Chase Lucas and he was bringing the linebackers. I do think that the way to win will hopefully be those really great timely blitzes against Stroud and company out there in Houston.
Am I looking at Warrior overtime here?
Oh, God.
120, 120 going to overtime.
Not now. Horford's debut is going to collapse on the field toward the court. Jeez.
That's what this old Warrior team needs is overtime.
He's 43. Give him some oxygen.
Yeah. To me, this matchup is going to be so intriguing because I think this is all about the first quarter. If the 49ers can just come out and really take it to them physically, and this is a Texans team that I think you can muscle their weapons. So if the Niners can come out and intimidate their weapons and just make their offense stay disjointed, get a lead, I think this can be a kind of a one-sided game. I'm going to say this game's a little bit more like 31-6. I like 31-9, something like that. I think the Texans have wind up settling for 3 field goals. Let's talk a little bit about the trade deadline. It's coming up November the 4th. It's October the 23rd right now. John Lynch went on the radio this morning and said, hey, we don't need to. The question was, hey, do you guys need to, you have no Bryce Huff. Do you need to trade for a defensive lineman? And I agree with you, by the way. They do need to come up with some rush. You should have seen practice today. I was standing right there. Chris Kasarik was just absolutely in fuego, yelling at Beal, yelling at Mikael Williams, just, run faster, just absolutely. It was just awesome, man. It was amazing. And we were so close that, we'll put it out there. People can check it out. It's just, it's like probably the closest angle I think I've ever gotten at practice. For some reason, they just happen to practice right in front of us. And it's just this drill where Chris is just, he's got the chew spit going. He's got that sweat, he's pulling his hair out. He's pulling it, grabbing his hat. He's, just unbelievable stuff. So he is doing everything in his power to yell at his guys to try to get them motivated and this and that. And they're trying to work on every single guy. You can see, Bradley King is going to get some run this week. He's coaching him hard. He's coaching up Mikael hard. He's coaching up Beal hard. They really are trying to get something out of Beal. They are really trying to get something out of Beal. It was like, you can just see that they're like, that even his assistants coming over and trying to plead with Beal to do this and that and what he wants him to do. They got to find a rush. I was going to say one thing I would do is I'd put Nick Martin on the field and blitz him. He's got 7 sacks in his career at Oak State. This guy's got a nose to hunt quarterbacks. He's one of the fastest guys on the field. He's 230 pounds and, 4.5 speed. He's got good instincts to attack the quarterback. Blitz this guy, get him on the field on some third downs and send him at the quarterback from an array of different spots. And I think that's what I would do with no huff. You got to come up with something special. And I don't know that the guys, Robert Beal, I don't see real special, but Nick Martin does have special explosive closing ability. So why not?
Yeah, the way they've utilized him doesn't shock me because I thought he needed a year to kind of get his bearings and whatnot. And I think he'll get his reps on special teams. Honestly, though, I think the Niners, if they're going to make a deal or find any pressure, I don't think it's going out there and buying one of these top guys. I think Jermaine Johnson from the Jets, I think, made it pretty clear, I think yesterday or today, that he doesn't want to go anywhere. So maybe that changes. But, Woody Johnson does Woody Johnson things. So we'll see. I wonder if they can target maybe finding more of that pass rushing depth specialist. I'm sure they would like Beal to become that. He does have some speed, but he just can't stay healthy and clearly is not good enough to be on the field when guys aren't hurt. But I wonder if like Joe Tryon-Shoyinka from the Browns makes an impact somewhere on the trade deadline, or a DJ Wanham from the Panthers. They're playing better, so maybe not there. But I just don't know if the Niners are willing to kind of change what's working, in the sense of they love blitzing the safety. They love blitzing the nickelback. And I think that's what they are going to do. Obviously, we all want to see Nick Martin out there, but I just don't think they're willing to put a linebacker out there, or whether he's playing some sort of hybrid edge spot, because he did play some nickel a little bit at Oklahoma State, and risk him being out there. But I do think that maybe Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, or simply just blitzing Lucas Still, because it worked the last couple games, and figuring things out. But even then, Solo doesn't blitz that much anyways. It's more like the timely blitzes that work out for him. But it does seem like he's more willing to let those guys kind of pin their ears back and go and utilize some stunts, compared to, bringing some other guys out there to help things out.
Well, I can see why they're trying to get these guys going at practice, because this is what they're going with this week. Yeah. Bryce Huff's out. Yatir Gross-Matos is out. So what do you got? You got Mikael Williams. You got Sam Aquinu. You've got Robert Beal. And now you can go down to the practice squad, and you can have William Bradley King and Travis Gibson. Or maybe Sebastian Valdez if you want to call him off. But I think it'll be William Bradley King and Gibson, probably both getting the elevation. or if maybe they want to spread it out and go with William Bradley King now and Gibson later, because I don't know how many times Gibson's been elevated. But they can play that waiver, that practice squad game back and forth and elevate different guys. I mean, that's
Right.
Those are their options unless they make a trade. The team that to me, I think might be everybody's talking about the Jets and the Dolphins. The Dolphins have Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips.
Yeah.
I think those teams do make a lot of sense for the 49ers. But to me, I would say the team that probably makes the most sense is probably Tennessee. Because Tennessee has Arden Key, but they also have other guys. They have Sebastian Joseph Day. I mean, not that the Niners necessarily want to bring him back, but they do have him.
Right.
They also have Draymond Jones, who's 280 pounds, former
He was in
Seahawk.
Seattle a couple of years ago.
Yeah, he was in Seattle. But Draymond Jones is 280-pound edge rusher who's played outside linebacker. They also have Roger McCreary, and I kind of think they have Sam Womack. I mean, they have some guys that the 49ers could definitely use. I think if you said, this game on defense these days is so much a rush and cover game that you just need a lot of corners and a lot of rushers. And to me, Arden Key, or Draymond Jones or both, and McCreary or something like that would really be a nice addition for the 49ers. I think that's the kind of trade I would try to make, just because I don't think you're gonna have to trade a ton to get those guys. And I think the idea of trading day 1 or day 2 picks, I don't know. I'm not sure. I think John Lynch wants to make sure that whatever defensive lineman he acquires, it's not a Chase Young situation. So what I mean by that is he wants to take somebody who's got a motor that's just just a famous motor, like a guy like Hendrickson, or he wants guys that he knows, guys that he absolutely knows they're going to play hard. I think that's why he would probably have some interest in Arden Key. And then the corner thing, I think the corner thing is that, look at the Niners right now. Demo's hurt, Renardo's hurt, Upton Stout's hurt. Those are their top 3 corners. When you run out of corners, it's kind of game over. And McCreary and Womack, I think, would be, I didn't even realize Womack was there, but yeah, they picked up Womack, but they also have McCreary, and McCreary's a decent sized corner. I liked him at Auburn, and he would help. I mean, he would help. The 49ers could definitely use another corner.
Well, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that Green and Stout practiced the last 2 days, and I believe Shanahan said on KNBR this afternoon that he was pretty confident that Lenore would play. So, yeah, those guys are banged up, and who knows if those things get more severe. But I do think that they're okay. Yes, they're thin if one of those guys is out for a long time, but I do think that they can survive in the meantime. And I think that you have Chase Lucas, who's played pretty good at nickel and maybe even better than Stout in a couple of games he's gotten to play. What do you make of, because the fan base would see 5-2, go all in, trade whatever it takes to get certain guys. I don't think that's the case. The team has been pretty open about trying to find guys either for cheap or under 2-year contracts that have controllable years on their deals left. But it's hard as a fan to not look at the Giants and think, man, Kayvon Thibodeau, well, they're 2-5. They can play the inside, they can play the outside, under contract for I think another year. I could be wrong there. But it may cost too much to get him. But then the more realistic fan of me is like, Carl Granderson maybe could make some sense from the Saints. Probably wouldn't cost too much. They're 1-6, maybe a 3rd-round pick. You'll get it back in the offseason anyways. Like, why wouldn't you make a deal like that? What do you make of San Francisco kind of drawing things back and not going all in per se? Because I do think it does give us indication that they like what they see. They believe in the team, but they don't believe in it that much to go out there and spend big high-end draft picks on guys for 1 year.
Yeah, I just think, when you've gone all in you can't go all in all the time.
Right.
You can only go all in. You got to pick your spots, and they've already picked their spots. They went all in on Hargrave, and they went all in on Trey Lance. So
Yeah.
you really can't go all in again on somebody. You have to think about numbers. I think New Orleans is an interesting trade partner, though, because Davin Godchuk is a real good, run defending tackle, and Granderson is an edge rusher who I think is from Sacramento, actually. And he could really help them. I mean, he's a real speedy edge rusher, and to me, that combo could really help. You get the big body inside, and you get the edge rusher. But the more I watch them, the more I think, they're going to need a corner, because it seems like they're awfully thin at corner. But you never know. You never know. And then the other thing is, they don't seem like they really like Garendo.
Yeah.
I asked about Garendo today, and I got this, I'm like, yeah, are you guys going to use Watkins or Garendo? And then all of a sudden, Kubiak gives me this dissertation on Watkins. And then when he's done with it, he goes, and who else did you ask about? And I'm like, Garendo. And he's like, oh, yeah, Garendo. It's like, Garendo is not even top. I mean, he's not anywhere close to top of mind for them.
No. I mean, he's fumbled a handful of times, and the vision is not great, which I think would come with reps, but they don't have time to waste. They can't put a guy out there and hope it figures itself out. But I do like what he brings to the table as a wide receiver with the 4.3 speed. But if McCaffrey was injured, I could see them utilizing him more. But when you have CMC out there, it's like nobody else plays running back, so why toss him out there? I do want to ask you this, though. Yeah. What is more likely, that they make a trade of any player, whatever it is, or they sit back and they watch guys like Bryce Huff return in a handful of weeks, Easter Gross-Matos return in a handful of weeks, and hope that Purdy's return, Pearsall's return, and maybe Ayuk's return are kind of the acquisitions, I guess, if they don't make a deal instead?
I think they're highly likely to make a deal. Just because they also have, assets. I mean, Robert Saleh's, I would say, would you say Robert Saleh's going to be an NFL head coach next year? I would say yes. So they're going to get some picks for that. Is Mac Jones going to be here as a backup next year? Well, what if he just demands to be somewhere else? You may have him to trade. You're going to get picks there. You're going to get compensatory picks for the way free agency went this year. So, I mean, they just have a lot of picks. They've got a lot of picks coming. So it's just, I think that's, I think they're more willing to trade because they do have those extra picks. I don't know if I don't think they'll trade. I almost guarantee they would not trade the 2026 first, because I think, right. And people are tired of me saying it, but I keep saying
it's for a tackle.
It's for a tackle. It's earmarked for the tackle. Nobody wants to hear me say that anymore, but that's the truth. And then, but of course you want to have some flexibility. But I don't see them wanting to move their day 1 or day 2 picks if they can avoid it. But I think they will if they can get the right player and they feel like it's a fair price. I'll tell you the name, and I'm looking at all the different rumor mills and all that, because now we're getting right down to it. And I mentioned the Arden Key McCreary thing, and I think that makes a lot of sense. I think Tennessee makes sense as a trade partner. But I'll tell you the other name that popped up this week that I was like really intrigued by is the Raiders supposedly have gotten tired of Jackson Powers Johnson, the Oregon center / guard, who got benched this weekend by Pete Carroll in the Kansas City game. And it's just so hard for to find a good offensive lineman. And here's a guy who's 330 pounds and has some overpowering traits at center. Usually the Niners go for smaller centers, but I kind of feel like that's part of the reason they struggle to run the ball. A guy like Jackson Powers Johnson, if I could get a guy like that for a day 3 pick, in the future, I would do it. The Raiders, I mean, the Niners took a flyer on Laken Tomlinson. They got a number of good years out of Laken Tomlinson. I think they could get a lot of good years for relatively cheap, especially if they get him for like a 4th. in Jackson Powers Johnson. I liked him at Oregon. He's big, he's powerful, he can play guard, he can play either guard spot, he can play center. I like some of the Niners guys, Drew Moss and Pooney, and I like some of those guys, but it would be nice to have a big body dominant center.
Do we know why he was benched? I don't know why at all, but I was wondering.
No, but I'm sure Pete Carroll's just getting tired of young offensive linemen make mistakes, and you run out of patience, and who knows? I'm
Okay.
sure it was something related to play though, not like conduct.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been looking for. If they could find that one really good young player at the deadline that team, like maybe a new regime gave up on because it's an old regime player or something like that. I'd like to see the Niners do something like that, or an edge rusher or a corner or both.
I wonder if Jackson Powers Johnson, who was a center at Oregon, is playing guard now and with the with the Raiders. Why are they playing him at guard? Because they have Jordan Meredith playing center, who maybe he's fine, but I feel like you don't draft a center.
I thought
in
they
round
went with
one
a
or
veteran
two.
center in free agency, and he lost the job to that guy, and then that guy got hurt. Isn't that true? Let me see.
He's listed as a guard on PFF, so maybe I'm wrong there, but I don't know. Just something feels weird. Now, new regime out there in Las Vegas, maybe it changes and everything. But not having a great year as a pass blocker, and there's been some mistakes that were made, and he was really bad against Kansas City this past weekend, which the whole team was bad. So, but right now it looks like he's been playing right guard for them and hasn't played a single snap at center all year. So he's not playing center for whatever reason. So I don't know why that's the case, but maybe you're right.
Yeah,
but
I don't
would
know.
Pete Carroll trade with Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco? It's a question.
Jordan Meredith is a smaller player. He's from Western Kentucky. Maybe they just like him. He is small though. For NFL standards, he's 6'3", about 300 pounds, where Jackson Powers Johnson is 6'3", 325. Yeah, he's a big boy. Anyways, there are teams. Heck, the Lions gave up on Laken Tomlinson. He came to the Niners. He had a nice little 5-year run. Maybe they could do something similar. Okay, two last ones before we bolt for the door and hit a couple of these supers. The NFL's best team going into Week 8, in your mind, is who?
And
this is one of those. It's kind of wide open. The best record is the Indianapolis Colts at 6-1. The best point differential is also the Indianapolis Colts at +92. But how many people would walk around and say the Indianapolis Colts are the best team in pro football?
Man, probably not
you
many.
Can
simply because probably because of Daniel Jones, but Daniel Jones is playing really good right now.
I'll tell you who's playing really good right now is the New England Patriots.
Drake May looks awesome.
They're
Mike
4-0 on the road.
Them around. Yeah,
beat the Bills. In the division, 4-0 on the road, and they got off to a bad start, but they've won 4 in a row. They've got a really good secondary, and they've got a young offensive line and some young building blocks on offense that are really good.
I think if you were to ask me, which you already did, who I'd pick, I think it might be a tie between the Lions and the Eagles. Now, Philadelphia hasn't run the football very well this year, but I would assume that'll change as the year goes on. And Jalen Hurts has had his problems. The offense has looked very high school-esque of just kind of playing free and, not really having a rhythm. But they just took it to the Vikings this past week. And then Jalen Hurts may have had one of his best games in the regular season ever. So I think I'd pick Philadelphia, probably Detroit as my two top teams. I don't think it's hard for me to say now, but I have a hard time buying into what the Bills have to offer. You love Josh Allen and you love James Cook, but that defense really isn't that good. And I
And
think
their
it's a
weapons
problem.
are nothing great.
Yeah, which maybe they're a team that goes out and makes a deal for Tyreek Hill, although not now, but or Jacoby Myers, and I can see them trying to make an ancillary move. They went and got Amari Cooper last year. Things didn't work out, but um, I don't trust almost any AFC team right now. Uh, the Chiefs look good as of recent, so maybe that's the case. But I think I would go with Philadelphia or Detroit again.
I was thinking either Detroit or Green Bay, maybe.
Yeah,
I like I like the Chargers, but then the Chargers faded and they won big tonight at home over the
yeah.
Vikings. But I like the Broncos, but I don't really like Bo Nix. I like
Mm.
Mahomes and Reed, but there's something that tells me that the sun is setting on the Chiefs.
Really?
So I love Mahomes, don't get me wrong, but I
Right.
mean, how long is
Right.
Chris Jones and those guys going on? I don't know. There's something. I mean, are the Chiefs really? I mean, they've won 2 in a row, but are they really? They looked bad at the beginning of the year. I mean, they had a tough
They got
schedule.
they got Worthy back and they got Rasheed Rice back for all the bad that includes with it. But
Yeah. So
they
maybe
have
it's
the weapons
Kansas
back.
City. I mean, maybe it's Detroit. Maybe it's Kansas City. Um, I think it's probably either Detroit, Kansas City, Philadelphia, Green Bay. Probably one of those 4.
Where are you? This is kind of a random topic, but where are you on Dak Prescott? I think he might be near the MVP conversation.
Yeah, he's having a good year.
Like he's been tremendous for how bad their defense has been.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was a good player in college, but
Yeah.
I mean, to be able to do this and have CD Lamb be hurt, right? Isn't Lamb down?
I think he's back this week, but Pickens has been an incredible acquisition for them this offseason from Pittsburgh.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, Prescott's strong. He can run. He's got a good enough arm. He's got some weapons. They put up points.
He's playing worth $60 million per year right now. We'll see if he can do it all season, but still.
I mean, they've scored 222 points.
Yeah.
And that is the most in the NFC by far.
Yeah. They've
Okay,
put
that
up
is the most in the NFC by far. In the AFC,
they've scored 43 times this year.
Colts have 232. Other than that, Colts are number 1, Cowboys are number 2. Points for. Wow.
Got to give Schottenheimer some credit out there. The offense is playing well. The defense is terrible, though. Just god awful.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the points against, Cowboys have given up 206 points.
Yeah.
There's only, as far as teams that have given up over 200 points in the NFL, Dallas, 206. Bengals, 214. Dolphins, 205. That's it. Everybody else is giving up less than 200 points. All right, last one. Last topic of the night. And this is I think a pretty good one. This is not an easy. This is not a gimme.
Okay.
Which young 49er do you believe in the most? And you can define young any way you want.
How do we define believe? because I feel like the team in general has a very high potential, but there always is the underlining question of like, can they stay healthy? Because off the rip, I want to say Ricky Pearsall.
Yeah,
like he was on track for
a lot of people want to say
yards.
Ricky Pearsall, but he's hurt.
Right, and it's like he looked incredible. Like he looked like a legitimate star budding in front of our eyes to begin the season. Then all of a sudden he hasn't played, and you hope he gets healthy, and I think he will soon. But it just you got to be healthy, and I know last year wasn't his fault, but this year it just if he can stay healthy, I would love Pearsall to be the guy because he looks so good and he has so much skill, the route running, the precision, the hands. He's awesome. He's awesome. But
he's glass.
Yeah, it's been a real struggle for him.
He's hurt.
Yeah.
He's always hurt. It's tough because there's a lot of good defensive players too. Alfred Collins, C.J. West,
I would probably argue
Dell
defensively.
Williams,
Defensively, I think I'd probably argue about Malik Mustafa.
Nick Martin, D. Winters, Tatum Bethune, Renardo Green, Malik Mustafa.
Surprisingly, I was looking at D. Winters' stats today, and I think he's been, good for the most of the year. And I think he'll have to be great because Warner's out now. But if you go to his numbers, his missed tackle percentage is insane.
Who?
D. Winters.
Yeah. He's
Let's see.
there's too many missed tackles. He falls off too many tackles.
Like it shocked me how bad it was.
It's not. He's not the most physical guy. He's fast and he's got good coverage ability, but he's kind of a tweener.
Yeah, which they like that out of their linebackers. But I think Mustafa, at least defensively, I think has at least excites me the most. I think he's an underrated coverage player. Obviously, he's back from the injury, so I do think that he'll continue to get better as the year goes on. But I think he has a chance to be a top 10 safety in football. The way he tackles, the way he covers. He was the best safety on the team last year. I think he's the best safety now, which I know isn't saying much because Siegel hasn't been great in coverage. He got benched already, and Jair Brown's not great. But I do think that Pearsall and Mustafa, to me, are the two big guys. I just think I'm putting my stock on them to be great. But again, he got to stay healthy.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go one offense, one defense. My defense, I think I'm going Upton Stout.
Okay.
I mean, he's just so physical. He's really fast. He's tough. He loves to play. He's just going to be good for a while. He's going to be good. I really like him, and he's young. He's really good. On offense, I know this is going to sound crazy, but I'm going to go Mac Jones. Is he considered young? He's 27. It's young for a quarterback. He's probably most quarterbacks last till at least 37, so he's probably got another decade in the NFL. I'd say Mac Jones. I like Dom Pooney. I like Jordan Watkins. He hasn't done enough yet.
Right.
I like Connor Colby. But yeah, I'd go Mac Jones. Give me Mac Jones on offense and Upton Stout on defense. Those are, I think, the best young Niners.
I was waiting for an Isaac Garendo shout out once again. How excited you are to see him play. The fact that Brian Robinson is on kick returns and not Garendo is a really telling sign. Like, so bad.
Use Garendo as a receiver. I don't get that. Last question, bonus question. Andrew Whitworth this week I saw went on a long diatribe about how Trent Williams might possibly be the greatest left tackle of all time. And of course, Trent Williams has been to 11 Pro Bowls. If I say to you the best left tackle of all time, you say who?
My first instinct was to say Orlando Pace. But then I think of Larry Allen when he was in Dallas and how great he was.
He was a guard.
Right. He played tackle. Well,
he might have played. He might have played some right tackle somewhere on the line, but he's a guard.
Okay. And then Trent's obviously up there. But I probably lean towards, and maybe it's just my youth and watching the Rams growing up and everything. But probably Orlando Pace, just how great he was, and nobody got to Bulger or Warner, or even it just. Man, like it felt like the blind side was incredibly safe for any quarterback playing in St. Louis or I guess now Los Angeles. I'd probably pick Orlando Pace.
Yeah, that's a good one. I got to go with Anthony Munoz. Munoz was the Bengals offensive lineman. He was just an absolute machine. He was just huge and unbelievably athletic. I think he would be number one. Then number two all time, I'm going to go Walter Jones, who played for Seattle. Oh, yeah. He was just awesome.
Phenomenal.
Just an awesome player. Just totally dominated Joey Porter and all those guys in the Super Bowl. When Pittsburgh beat Seattle. He was just totally one of the most dominating players I've ever seen in my life. Then I would put Trent Williams 3. Then I would put Jonathan Ogden 4.
Yeah.
And then when I got to 5, I was like, okay, who do I go with? Because I've seen, and then I'm thinking of this is the best guys I've ever seen. And I had Orlando Pace, Willie Roaf, Tony Baselli, Gary Zimmerman. Remember Gary Zimmerman? How great he was. But I'm a little bit older than you, so I can remember Jackie Slater. And Jackie Slater.
Oh, no. I know Jackie Slater because he coached at my college when I was there.
Jackie Slater was an awesome offensive tackle. So
Craziest thing, nicest dude ever.
Oh, yeah, he really nice. Really nice. But, yeah, I would have him. That'd be my 5. Munoz 1, Walter Jones 2, Trent Williams 3, Jonathan Ogden 4, Jackie Slater 5. He blocked for Ferragamo. He blocked for, heck, all those guys. Namath, Burt Jones, all the Ram quarterbacks through the years. So yeah, Jackie Slater was a great player. Great player.
For the sake of, I guess, stirring up the pot somewhat, where would you rank Joe Staley in your left tackle list? Obviously, probably further down than top 5, but
yeah, I mean he's great.
Is he below Joe Thomas and all those guys like that?
He's on this list. I mean, he would be on this list. I mean, yeah. I mean, I would have him on that second tier with like Jason Peters, Joe Thomas, Art Shell, if you want to go way back. Willie Roaf. Wow. Willie Roaf was great. There was a guy for the Minnesota Vikings when I was a kid named Ron Yeri who played at USC, who was awesome. But he also, I think, might have played some guard. It's funny. Gil Brandt, who's one of the, no longer with us, but Gil Brandt, who was a great personnel guy, listed Jim Parker as the number one offensive left tackle of all time. He played for the Colts. He was an 8-time Pro Bowler. He's a Hall of Famer. He played for Woody Hayes, and Woody Hayes called him the best offensive lineman he ever coached. Jim Parker, going way, 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 way back, but that's before my time. I would say Munoz, Walter Jones, Trent Williams, top 3. Top 5, I'm going Ogden, and I'm throwing Jackie Slater. But the Jackie Slater, Orlando Pace, I think Orlando Pace was more naturally gifted than Jackie Slater, but Jackie Slater was the best. He was such a technician for so long, so many great years. And as you said, really, really nice guy. All right, let's hit our super. I think we got a super or two here, and then we'll bolt for the door. We got this one from Ernberg in the house. He says, the week everything falls apart. 5-12 is coming. Come on.
Love the optimism.
Ernberg.
Always.
Everything's going to fall apart in Houston.
If you have low expectations, you can always be surprised. So I get it somewhat. I get it.
There you go. Stefan says, Larry saying play Garendo this week. I have better chances of getting snaps than Garendo. Yeah. And like literally, you got to get Watkins and Garendo in there. He talks about Watkins for a minute. He goes, and then who's the other guy? Garendo. Oh yeah. Garendo.
Do you think they'll trade him? Like the Chargers want to run him back. Like, do you think they're open to moving him, or do you think they are maybe
I would
hesitant because of CMC's injury history?
I would move him. Like once again, I'm talking about a trade like with Tennessee. Tennessee is a developmental team at this point. Like if I could make a deal with them and flip them a running back and get back like a Tyjae Spears or somebody like that, somebody who's maybe fits what they do and can be because I mean at this point they have him on the roster because they don't want to cut him because they drafted him. They don't want to waste the pick. But he doesn't really fit. The coaching staff doesn't want to use him. He can't really be trusted as a runner. He's probably more of a receiver, but they have a bunch of receivers. He's not a refined route runner. So he's just like a big athletic guy in the middle of your locker room that's not adding a whole lot. But and then he can't be trusted on special teams. He runs up people's backs. He fumbles the ball. But he is huge and fast. And there are personnel people that would look at that guy and go, look, give that guy to me and I will see if we can do something. So I think you could move him for something. And it would be nice if the Niners actually had a third back that they believed in instead of just activate. I mean, because they put Garendo up every Sunday, they just don't use him. But imagine if they did have a Tyjae Spears and then they could spell Christian McCaffrey for a series here or there with somebody like a Spears. So I do think there's a possibility that he gets moved because I don't see him as a fit. I just don't. Doesn't have the instinct.
Why is it that they keep Garendo up? Which, okay, it's fine. I get it. He has 4.3 speed. He can give you something. He's in the offense last year. Why is he up when they clearly don't trust him and Jordan James isn't? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Lynch was like talking up Jordan James this week on the radio, during the John Lynch show saying, oh, you're going to wait till you see this guy. I don't know. I mean, I'll say this. I like the build of Jordan James. He's squatty and powerful.
Big guy.
And I like, a lot of people say he fits this offense, and I like his receiving ability. But why haven't we seen him? I mean, the guy hasn't done anything at all I didn't see him even do that much in camp this summer. Kind of felt like he was another guy that was kind of promoted through without really a lot of. I actually kind of felt like Corey Kiner badly outplayed him, and Kiner got cut because of an injury. Now is on Minnesota's practice squad. So who knows? It's one of those things. All right, Sterling, give us tell people if they are not familiar with you, where they can find your stuff and what kind of content you put out there right now.
Yeah, you can follow me on social media at 49ers_access is the X or Twitter. 49ers.access is the Instagram. And I do Niners content nearly every single day, but primarily during the season. I do preview podcasts and reaction podcasts to every single game. In fact, today we broke down the Niners versus the Houston Texans, talked about how San Francisco can win, and how maybe the Texans can give a San Francisco a run for their money. But you can find me at simply 49ers Access, whether it's on YouTube or the audio podcasting feeds like Apple or Spotify. We're on there, been on there for a while, and we do things just like this with myself, Larry, and other guests along the way. And it's always fun to be on, Larry. Thank you so much.
I'd say we're done, but we have one last thing to do.
Oh no, is it Habas Law?
And it's our Habas Law moment of the show. Today's show is sponsored by Habas Law. Omar Habas and his son Tarek have been standing up for people right here in Northern California. They're fierce, relentless attorneys. They don't back down until justice is done. When you're injured, insurance companies try to minimize your pain and try to dodge. These guys don't let them do it because they know the playbook. They've been beating insurance companies for decades. So they're official partners of the Earthquakes, the Sharks, the Giants, San Jose State, Santa Clara, and others. They're very much rooted here in Northern California. So if you need someone in your corner, call the firm insurance companies hope you never call, and that's Habas Law. They will fight to make it right. Visit them on the web at habaslaw.com, HABBAS law.com. Also, 1-800-INJURED is the number. All right, let's go to week 8 in the NFL. And the nice thing with being in the survivor pool and losing early, it's now over. But they let you back in week 8. They let you back in week 8. So, Sterling, let's find what is the best survivor pool as our Habas Law final segment here. What is the best survivor pool option for week 8? If you're getting back in, you can have any game you want. Everything's wide open. Do you feel confident in any of these games?
Well, if Lamar Jackson's not playing, the Bears against the Ravens feels like the Bears should win that game if Cooper Rush is playing quarterback.
Wait a second. You're suggesting that I should put the survivor pool on Caleb Williams and the Bears on the road in Baltimore?
It's not Lamar Jackson playing. I feel more confident. It's Cooper Rush. Hey, the Texans put up 44 points against those Baltimore Ravens with Cooper Rush playing quarterback, and I have a lot more confidence in the Bears offense in the Houston Texans. So I do wonder, maybe that's an angle you could take, but Caleb has not played great so far this year whatsoever. Giants and Eagles.
I was thinking maybe either Chiefs on Monday night at home against the Commanders.
Okay.
The Commanders seem to be in a bad way, and there's no Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
So that's the one I was going to go with. Chiefs,
Colts and Titans too.
Yeah, Colts and Titans for sure, but it's a division game. That's always a little bit of a nervous. That makes me a little nervous, but I do like Colts. I like Broncos over Cowboys, but Cowboys are kind of surging.
And that the Cowboys offense led by Dak Prescott, and the Broncos barely beat the Giants last week. They had a really slow start.
Right. And seriously, they almost lost. I like Bucks in New Orleans, but you never know. You never know. How much partying did the Bucks do in New Orleans? Yeah. And then other than that, Bills in Carolina. I mean, I think Buffalo should win there. Patriots at home against Browns. Don't you think Patriots probably win that?
The Browns defense, I don't know. Scares me at least.
Falcons
at least
bounce back at home against Dolphins, probably.
Yeah, but I don't trust Michael Penix at all.
I know, seriously.
It's not good.
There's always just risks. NFL, there's a million risks. The division games are risky. Young, volatile quarterbacks are risky. Some teams just kind of no-show certain games, so it makes it risky. But I think I'm leaning towards the Chiefs at home against – who's the backup quarterback for the Commanders?
Marcus Mariota.
Yeah. Chiefs against Mariota on Monday night. I think that's what I'm rolling with. All right, that's going to do it for us. Thanks to Sterling. Thanks to all of you. Hit like and subscribe on your way out the door. Thanks to all of our sponsors. Thanks to Sleeper. Thanks to of course, Pig in a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. And we also should thank Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California, on the Monterey Peninsula. Thanks to Anthony Catania. He's at 831-521-5264. And also thanks to Claw Daddy Arcades, who sent us to New Orleans for week 2. And he's a great follow on Instagram at Claw_Daddy_Arcades to find a location near you. Brand new locations in Capitola Mall and Visalia Mall, thanks to Claudette Arcades for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. All right, until next time, that's it for tonight. And tomorrow I'm back at 9 a.m. from Levi's. We will be streaming with Damon Bruce tomorrow from Levi's from 9 to 10. Then you'll catch me on KMBR from 10 until 1, sitting in for Greg Papa with Greg Silver. And then I'll be back at 6 o'clock for Niners Nightly on KMBR from 6 to 7. And the voice of the Texans is going to join us. So we're fired up about that. So anyway, have a great rest of your night. Sterling, great to see you. Once again, hit like and subscribe on your way out the door, and peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of.